gonna do this thing. I wouldn't miss what's coming for the world.
The thing that I've been kind of into with the show is this idea of sacrifice. Of like what sacrifice, but like what each character is willing to sort of give up for either what they want or what they need or for the universe, and what characters aren't. What would you say is your character's relationship to the idea of sacrifice in this season?
First of all, I think that's a beautiful question. I don't think I've really looked at the show and our characters through that lens, so that's a really interesting thought experiment. I think Ben, he's sacrificed everything, kind of unwittingly to be here, which is he's no longer with the Sparrows, right? He's the only surviving member of the Sparrow Academy. He doesn't have his powers, and his whole identity has been wrapped around having his powers and being the superhero. So he's just trying to survive and find his place. And throughout the season, he wants his powers back, and he's willing to do anything to get his powers back because he does feel that's all he has, and that's all his identity is wrapped around.
And Elliot, I know that your character has a very different relationship with his powers.
Yeah, very, very different. If anything, you know, Viktor's pretty happy to have that be a part of his past, you know. We find him kind of very separate and distant from the other siblings at the beginning of the season, just trying to create his own sort of more normal life. Of course, his powers have caused a lot of trouble in the past because he wasn't connected to them and not connected to his emotions and what have you. And I think, you know, for him, sacrifice means in this that he actually is gonna go back into this whole chaos mess of things and do what he can to help his family. And I think also resolve certain things he's been carrying and holding on to, and certain anger he's been holding and carrying on to, and that's where it sort of plays in for him, I guess, this season.
Well, my Klaus has a pretty big one right at the beginning of the season where he's willing to sacrifice his life so that he doesn't have to live the life with powers again, because that to him is worse than death, to face fate worse than death. So he'd rather be a kind of germaphobe, scared of the world little twit than risk and basically reduce the risk of dying over and above having the life he had before with the powers and the ghosts and the uncontrollability of it all. So that's where he is. He's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, but if it comes down to it, which it does, he sort of mourns the fact that he still has his life, but it's the old life, you know. So yeah, he's a bit of a masochist, though, you know, a bit of a weirdo.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with Luther, like, the family element is so huge for him. There's a few things that I suppose Luther has, like, lost in this transition between 3 and 4 with Sloane and everything. Luther's always wanted to do the greater good, right? He always wants to do that, and he wants to do what's best for his family. That's what's always important to him. So I think he's so bred into this world of, like, being a superhero and doing what's right for. So sacrifice for him is, he's born and bred into that. Like, I think sacrifice is what he knows.
Yeah.
For him, it's always about the family being together. So if they can do something together, and then he'll do it.
Yeah.
And smile.
No.
She's lost without. She doesn't know her purpose, but she's now a mum, so that's her purpose, her kids. And so it's okay not having powers because she loves her kids, but so she's not in any rush to get them back. However, she is missing excitement, and she's not necessarily happy in this relationship, you know? So she sacrifices being with her family, being with her children in order to save the world. So, I mean, it's quite the hero's journey. And I think it's quite unexpected from her because she's been so selfish throughout all the other seasons, you know? She's been very much like a Lone Ranger, and so that was a very satisfying journey to get to play.
I think Diego is in the beginning in the stages of sacrificing his own sort of self by being a father and a husband, but it's not really coming with the intention of actually sacrificing for the good, but more so sacrificing because I just kind of want to stick it to my dad for not being like a solid father, and I want to be able to prove him differently or prove myself that I am different than him. But the intention within that sacrifice is very venomous, and it's not really helpful for his marriage. And so, you know, at eventually when he comes to realize that his family is the most important thing, that in itself, that idea that he had about self-worth and validation through superpowers, sacrificing that idea, it does, you know, you're pointing it out, it does make sense that like once he gives up that, then he can really be present and aware of what he actually has in front of him.
First mission back! Hell yes! Let's go kill this bitch!
This is a rescue mission.
So the world's ending again, huh?
You know, 5 without... I think Klaus really nails it on the head when he says chaos junkie. Like, whether 5 likes to admit it or even knows it or not, he hasn't thought about life or his place in it. He's just been trying to stop the world from folding in on itself. I don't even know that he thinks about it like sacrifice. I think he just feels that he has to do it. Maybe that's some type of deeply embedded psychology thing that Hargreaves did, where he has to save the world, and that's been his whole life. It's been that level of stakes and this fast pace, and that all slows down so much at the beginning of season 4. And he has to figure out what to do with himself, why he's living at all, and he's really sort of lost. So until the sort of story arc that he goes on this season with the subway, he's a purposeless person.
He finds purpose in the subway with Lila.
Yeah, it's real cute.